Hey everyone, how are you doing? Happy Friday. It's Bobby here. We've just been trading some more stories with our new guest here. Whilst people come in, we'll give guys, I guess, a couple of minutes just to join in. Yeah, a reminder that the radio that's been going there, it's available 24/7 for guys in the community, and it's always a nice touch whenever you're plugged into Discord. So yeah, feel free to check it out. I think for our guest, Big Squid, we usually get around 15 to 20 people watching live, and then maybe about 100 or so downloading it later, just for expectations. But yeah, I think as always, the podcast is being recorded right now, and a link will be shared later for people in both communities, whether from yAxis or from SquidDAO. Okay, I guess let's kick off and dive into it. Thanks to everyone joining us today, both here and recorded later on live, for you heard episode 30. We're really excited to have a special guest this week, and we want to give a huge welcome to Big Squid from SquidDAO, who's heading up the team over there. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Cool. Also on the call, we've got the usual suspects, Mister.
Yes, the usual suspects indeed. Thank you. Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining. And yes, a very warm welcome to SquidDAO, the big squid of SquidDAO.
Nice one.
Cool.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, hey, happy Friday, everyone. This is Big Poppy.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Big Squid.
Yeah, we've got a lot of big people on the call, like Pappy was saying earlier, Big Squid and Big Pappy. I was going to go with Big Bobby, but that sounds a bit racy to me. I don't know. Yeah, so I think we'll talk a bit about the announcement that we had yesterday, and then it's like a bit of an informal AMA kind of style session with Big Squid. So yeah, yesterday we had a quick announcement from both sides, and it's for us at least, it's a huge pleasure to be partnering up with SquidDAO. These kind of collaborations are really valuable in this space, as we were saying just before we went live. And for us, especially as a yield aggregator on ETH network as well, like TVL is everything to us. Like that's really got to be our goal going forward. So anything that we can do to grow the TVL has to be definitely looked into. Like when we look at other people like Yuan Finance in the space, and they've got billions of dollars of TVL, and we're thinking like how they managed to get so much TVL in, especially now without a token to incentivize it. Actually, most of it comes from these kind of partnerships and from platforms or VCs rather than from individual users. You guys over at SquidDAO, you've found a lot of success actually pretty quickly since launch, and that's really fantastic. And I guess for you guys now at SquidDAO, you're also going through the process of deploying the capital, I guess in a competitive sense as well, with your peers as well.
Yeah, so SquidDAO has had some pretty good success getting ETH into our treasury. So just a high level, what is SquidDAO? SquidDAO is an ETH investment fund with multiple revenue sources. So some people think of it as just an ohm fork, but the ohm fork bonding mechanism is just kind of one mechanism used to get to make revenue and bring ETH and in the future other assets into the treasury. The other revenue source is we're a fork of NounsDAO, which is one NFT auctioned every day. And those NFTs are not just JPEGs, they're actually governance rights as well as rights to protocol fees. So one NFT is auctioned off every day. In the last couple of days, we're actually doing a partnership with Ohm right now, Olympus DAO. So right now, the NFTs are actually being auctioned off for Ohm. And in the past, all of them have been paid for in ETH. But for this 12-day partnership, we're collecting Ohm for these NFTs. So what that really gives us the opportunity. Oh, and then the third source of revenue is yield farming, which is what we're very excited to partner with yAxis on. But the great opportunity that SquidDAO has is we have about 15,000 plus ETH in our treasury. So unlike a lot of other DAOs who are very conservative with their treasuries and kind of like to just hold dollars or hold naked ETH, we kind of take the more DeFi native approach and kind of go back to our roots and being a DeFi degen. So we actually put all of our ETH, or try to put all of our ETH to work. Obviously, that's a lot of ETH to put to work at once, but The idea is to yield farm, either borrowing against the ETH for dollars and yield farming like that, or directly with the ETH and earning more yield on that ETH. But yeah, so lots going on at SquidDAO. But generally speaking, yeah, we like to view ourselves as an investment in ETH denominated investment fund, which is a great kind of a yAxis is a great strategic partner for us. And I'm sure we're going to talk about more of the deal later, but just on a high level, it's great because we were running a lot of the same strategies that yAxis runs itself through its vaults, but we were planning on auto compounding them ourselves or staking the curve convex tokens for more yield. But obviously, you guys do that automatically, so that's kind of a great plus for us.
Yeah, like we definitely see that as a huge value add in the space because especially on Convex now with gas fees, it can cost like $1,500 or $2,000 even sometimes just to go through one kind of loop of compounding. So yeah, we think especially for smaller users, that's like a real good thing to have. Yeah, it's amazing to see the growth you guys have had. Like I think last time I heard it was 10,000 ETH and now you're already at 15,000 ETH. And that kind of governance model you have where you're selling an NFT every day is just raking in cash for the treasury. And it's actually a pretty cool thing like we were mentioning before. We've also got lots of NFTs or artwork ourselves that could be minted. So maybe it's something for us and our DAO to look into ourselves.
Yeah, it's definitely a really unique model and something that we didn't innovate ourselves. We forked Nouns DAO. But what's interesting is we kind of added a bunch of layers to what Nouns does. So Nouns is basically a governance, uses the NFTs as governance, and the ETH just kind of sits in the treasury. And they're now starting to deploy it. But we've kind of added, so one thing that is great about DeFi, obviously, is that all the code is open source, or most of all the code is open source. So anyone can fork anything, but SquidDAO is kind of the unique example of 1 + 1 = 3, right? We forked a lot of different protocols, and independently, it's not that great. But when you mash all these different things together, it kind of creates a new beast. So the idea of bringing in ETH through selling governance rights through NFTs is great because then on the back end, we're really just a fund that then puts that ETH to work.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good point. And like another example of that would be, I think, Wonderland and Abracadabra, where they kind of launch several platforms at the same time. And maybe individually, they're not like super special on their own, but together they work really well. And that's good. You guys have kind of jumped on that as well yourselves. Like we've got several like quite large whales deposited already, and even in the ETH vault, I think someone immediately aped in like $7 million on day one. And yeah, we're hoping that SquidDAO is just the first of many kind of collaborations in the space, like official industry collaborations, I guess, to come on board after our V3 launch. Because it's the large users that really drive like the locking and boosting elements which go into the long-term tokenomics. I think you guys mentioned as well that you do the same kind of 1 to up to 4 years of locking as well. And that's something which we've just kind of kicked off ourselves into our own vaults to create this kind of tug of war between the different vault users. And hopefully that's going to play out over time as well.
Yeah, so we're excited to max lock our tokens that we bought from you guys to kind of boost. So I don't know if everyone saw who's listening, but SquidDAO aped in 500 ETH to the AL ETH strategy today. And then we have 85,000 yAxis tokens that we're going to max lock to kind of optimize and boost that yield. So yeah, we're really excited about that and that kind of opportunity to not only max lock, but be very early to max lock on your platform, which again is a great strategic relationship builder for the two of us, because obviously we have a ton of ETH to deploy and you guys are kind of the strategists and big brains behind deploying these strategies. So you can kind of, if we're interested in going into more dollar yield farming, like through our gauge position, we can help push more rewards towards that and kind of work symbiotically in that kind of way.
Yeah, one of the big things that we actually did with V3, the launch, is that we have like a generic kind of abstract vault. So we can actually roll out new vaults and strategies within a day, basically. So it allows us to kind of react to market trends. Whereas before, like at the beginning of the year, a long time ago, we were kind of beholden to one kind of strategy or one vault, which was, a little bit limiting, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you guys, 15,000 ETH. What else have you done with it so far?
Yeah, so we've a lot of it is in kind of basic yield, simple ETH yield strategies. So your vaults, Lido staked ETH, our ETH. We have bunch in Convex itself. So we're farming Curve and Convex tokens. But yeah, so if anyone's in our Discord, you can go up to the resources and actually look through our Zapper and look through our multi-sig wallet to kind of follow along with all these investments, which is kind of a cool thing. Like I like to tell people to kind of tag, to turn on alerts for our wallet, just to kind of like, hey, if you're not a professional yield farmer, just like follow along with us. So I could definitely post a link for everyone to look at our Zapper. But yeah, just a lot of the more traditional yield farming strategies we're in right now.
Yeah, that's cool. I think we opened up a channel yesterday on our Discord to kind of take questions from both communities. I think Big Pappy has got some of those to kind of go through and help us kind of answer, I guess, some of the questions about it.
Sure. Yep. Thanks, Bobby. And thank you to everyone who provided the questions. We boiled these down to just a short list that will fit within the allotted time frame. So the first thing I wanted to ask, we'll start with Big Squid. Talking about the NFTs that you guys have, and obviously they play an integral part in your project. Are you guys looking to expand the utility or build on top of those NFTs even more than what you already have?
So I think we're kind of in a unique position where there already is a strong utility to these NFTs. So there's been multiple snapshots in the last couple of days where NFT holders have voted in. So we just raised the bonding fee from 10% to 25% through the NFT voting. And then very soon we're going to turn on the protocol fees to NFT holders. So I think those are kind of two unique utilities that most NFTs don't have today. But yeah, we're always looking to expand utility and maybe build some new NFT products in the future where maybe the NFT auctions aren't for a full governance vote. Maybe we do a lottery type sale where you're actually getting less than a full vote. So just kind of allow some people to get in at cheaper prices and kind of experiment with that stuff. But yeah, we're very experimental and kind of like to keep the door open for a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah, no, your guys' entire approach and reading, the focus on picking the best of the lessons learned, the best practices from stuff like Yearn, from Nouns, from Ohm. It's really a brilliant angle. So I know buzzwords are big in this space. For another one for you, Big Squid, is metaverse. What does that mean to you, and is it something that SquidDAO is looking at? And let me preface that by saying that that's something internally we've been dabbling in. We invested in a metaverse world on this project. We're in early enough that the multiplayer isn't quite out. It's coming out in the next week, but the way we envision it is as a place that the community can meet, can hang out, and eventually even integrate smart contract integration, in world, which opens up a whole new level of possibility. But I'm curious, given how innovative and cutting edge SquidDAO is, what you guys have talked about in regards to metaverse.
Yeah, so at this time, the metaverse isn't really in the scope of things we're doing. Right now, we're kind of focused on like the intersection of DeFi, DAOs, and NFTs. And yeah, not to say that it's not interesting or not something we'll look at in the future, but I think we're kind of way more focused on just like, let's scale out the DeFi stuff we have. And then if community members want to build metaverse stuff on top of us, that's great. But I don't necessarily think that's the focus of the team.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, especially with how well the NFTs are working for you guys, I think building on that's definitely a good strategy. So one of the things we're doing on yAxis right now is we're trying to build up, integrate, and mature our DAO. Um, in your experience, what's been some of the things that worked really well for you guys in finding that balance between the DAO and the project team?
So I think the thing that worked best for us was very early on, we open sourced all the BD and all the partnership discussions in the Discord. So if anyone wanted to have partnership discussions with us, we just created a new channel. And regardless of if you're an NFT holder, a Squid holder, you're able to view and participate in those conversations. So I think it's like really empowering for people who have the knowledge to have these conversations or very deep into crypto, but maybe have Web2 jobs and can't fully commit all their time. So it's kind of just about access from our perspective, access to all the decision making and all the potential things that will happen. And then as kind of a community member, that's exciting because most DAOs and most projects don't really give full view into what's happening. And of course, like SquidDAO, DAOs are very complicated, right? Like it's still hard to share information and share and communicate everything without getting front run on certain things or making sure it's fully safe before people use these products. But I guess generally speaking, just kind of allowing full open access to all discussions. And then ultimately that kind of has led to community driving a lot of new changes. So we just implemented a policy team. So 5 community members, the vote is still going on, but will be elected to the policy team. And then basically they control all the governance rights to changing APY and all the bonding mechanics. So by kind of empowering them in that sense, these really smart engineers and data scientists are then kind of like empowered by the DAO to actually make decisions on behalf of the DAO, and of course are paid to do so.
I mean, I've always found it like a bit of a struggle coming from the traditional like startup tech world, in terms of like confidentiality, because like I'm like half of me is like trying to keep things under wraps, but then the other half is thinking like this is kind of like should this be public knowledge or not? And like a good example was yesterday when we made that transfer of the first 42,500 yAxis over to you guys, and immediately people start talking about it. Before we've made an announcement and start saying, what is it, all this kind of stuff. And it's a bit of a challenge, I guess, sometimes between the DAO world and what you think is trying to make like good kind of normal business practices, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And we're obviously very early into the world of DAOs, so no one really has the right answer. It's just kind of all experimentation at this point, but that's kind of something that excites us.
Yeah, it's a good point. We've been buried deep in articles and reading what other projects have done for the past few weeks, just to see who's gotten it right, who's struggled, and I think there's some interesting cases like MakerDAO. It's made big inroads on the more traditional concept of a DAO. And then I think of what you guys are doing is almost at the opposite end of that. Very untraditional but very innovative and cutting edge compared to what they have going on. And I think it's just going to continue to innovate. I mean, 3 months from now, what we think is the optimal DAO is probably going to look very different. And it's kind of wild being in this space. You never have time to catch your breath.
Yeah, I think it's very important to know your customers or know your DAO members, in the sense that, like for Maker, their decisions are things are a lot more formal, because almost all their DAO members and people who actually participate in governance work at VCs or are OG DeFi whales. Whereas for us, a lot of our user base and DAO members are either independent investors in DeFi, or people who work in Web2 who are extremely interested in breaking into Web3. and actually getting paid to do work in Web3. So I think it's really just to know actually who wants to contribute to your DAO and then kind of cater to them.
Yeah, I'm always surprised that the people that are actually in the Discord sometimes, like you wouldn't suspect it, but sometimes you've got some super smart people that are there, and you wouldn't know it. And it's always good to kind of keep an eye out for who can contribute or who's got really good ideas. So yeah, I mean, I get DMs all the time from people who work for so and so, or they're like a VC at a company or something like this. It's just amazing to see who's actually out there and who you're actually talking to and interacting with all the time.
Yeah, I think it's this is the cycle that really sort of broke that earlier meme of institutions were entering the space. They really did enter the space this time, and it's not just that institutions are investing. You're starting to see that convergence. Like I like how you put it, Big Squid, the convergence of Web 2 and Web 3. That is probably one of the most interesting developments in this cycle. Is seeing big companies like Microsoft or IBM or whoever coming in and actually investing in and researching crypto, and also to see in the DeFi space a lot of the TradFi. I know some of the people in our audience are from the TradFi space, and to see them entering and realizing how early they are, but also how much opportunity there is in this space. It's a lot of fun. So one of these, and this one's for you, Bobby. And it was a question of how does this relationship with SquidDAO fit into our partner program?
Yeah, so previously we had a partner program when we first stood it up, which was a revenue share model, and that's still perfectly valid, and it's used in the industry by other platforms as well, such as Yearn Finance have a revenue share model. But with the rollout of V3, like we definitely see that the boosting is such an attractive part of the model, right? So you can get up to 2.5x your rewards. And that makes such an immediate difference to partners or people coming on board like SquidDAO. So rather than waiting months and months to farm up 85,000 yAxis, it makes sense to kind of purchase some upfront. So I definitely see that as like an evolution of the partner program rather than replacing what we have before. And yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and from our perspective, it was kind of a no-brainer I guess to talk about how we bought it. So because we're ETH maxis in a sense and don't want to sell ETH, we actually borrowed DAI on Maker, and then used that DAI to purchase the yAxis. And then once it's staked, it'll be earning so much in the 500 ETH that we deposited. That if we ultimately end up whatever percent we end up keeping versus selling, say we end up keeping 80% to add more strategies and then sell 20% for more ETH, we'll quickly be able to either pay back that loan or trade into ETH equivalent of that loan just by buying it up front. So when you look at it from that perspective, like return on investment, it'll basically pay itself back very quickly.
Yeah, the loans, especially stuff like Alchemix, I think is a really cool part of the DeFi space. All right, here's one on the artwork question. What was so they were talking about, we were looking, actually, I think it was the Zeus NFT yesterday, I believe, went for 333 Ohm. I think someone was trying to make a message there. What was the genesis of this collaboration with Ohm? Was it that you guys have a relationship with them, or you just thought it would be a cool addition to the Squid NFT collection? How do you make decisions as far as like artistic direction, but also who you partner with on those kind of things?
Yeah, so Ohm is obviously like the big brother in the space, in a sense. Like we forked their code, they're the geniuses behind the bonding model. So in that sense, like we partnering them was a priority in a sense. And actually, it wasn't even the team that kind of organized this whole partnership. It was actually a member of the community who was later then brought on to to the team, whatever the team means in this sense, but was brought on to the DAO and getting paid by the DAO now. But this is the NFT partnership is just the first of what we hope is many partnerships to come. So I'm sure people are very familiar with it, but wants to kind of be like the central currency of DeFi. And that can mean a lot of things, but one thing that it'll mean is that they're becoming a middle routing pair for a lot of AMMs. So there's definitely an opportunity in the future for there to be a Squid Ohm pool or Squid G Ohm pool, where G Ohm could actually act as the middle routing pair, which would then really deepen the liquidity for Squid. We're in discussions about taking G Ohm bonds to Squid, which would mean that you bond G Ohm to Squid, and then you'd get a Squid at a discount over a 5-day period. And for the DAO, that just means that we'd be taking G Ohm directly into the treasury. So basically taking an investment into G Ohm without actually buying it. So there's a lot of different partnership opportunities that we've explored with Olympus. But I guess generally speaking, when you kind of have an opportunity to work with like the innovators and kind of the people who have the most mind share in kind of the small niche DeFi that we're in, we're definitely going to jump on that opportunity at all costs, basically. But to talk about partnerships on a more general basis, yeah, it's really just like if we could find any symbiotic relationship, like we're happy to form a partnership, and that's kind of what you can see with Squid and yAxis as well.
No, thank you, Big Squid. No, I thought that was really neat. If I had that much Ohm, I would have definitely bid on that. That was a really sweet piece of artwork. And I should post that link in there for you guys. If you guys haven't taken the time to visit the SquidDAO OpenSea page, the gallery, it's worth a visit. Really, really clever artwork on there. So for this next question, this one is a little bit more fun. So actually, I would like to open this one up to some of the other guys in the channel here, because we were talking about this before the call, and it was a question of because again, SquidDAO, of course, Squid is your logo, but also from what I see and from what you guys are saying, Lovecraft is also a big inspiration. And for those who don't know, Lovecraft was the author from the early 1900s that created Cthulhu and all those other big cosmic horrors. So I'm going to ask the Tisk this one, start with him, but I do want to come back to Bobby and Big Squid because I'm curious. Tisk, Cthulhu or Kraken, two big squid-like monsters, but which one would win in a fight?
I would probably say Cthulhu in this case.
All right, I got a little bit of feedback. But say it again.
I think you went with
Go with
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
For me, like, it just brings back memories, like, you know, when I was a kid of World of Warcraft, battling the old boss back in the day. That's the only thing which pops up into my mind.
What about you, Big Squid? Which one would win in a fight?
I mean, I guess to be a little bit biased here, but easily the Kraken. You know, once
You think the Kraken? I guess the Kraken, if I remember right, is from Greek mythology, right?
I can't say I know too much about the historical roots of it, but yeah, that sounds about right. Some mythical creature from Greek roots.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I think Zeus would be unhappy if he got wind of us saying the Kraken would lose. I'm a big fan of Cthulhu myself. I think he's coming from space. He might, I don't know, very large, consume the planet, eat the Kraken. But, you know, we'll see. All right, on to the next question. So this one, we're really curious. You guys are obviously a DAO that is extremely, actually entirely invested in ETH, and I guess a little bit of OM now. Obviously, a lot of the community is very bullish on ETH long term, but I'm curious to hear from you a little bit more on what drove that decision to go so deep on ETH as far as the project investment.
Yeah, so I guess this might not be kind of the norm yet, but it's not that we're necessarily like all in ETH as an investment. ETH is just like our base asset, so we're denominated in ETH. So from our perspective, if we just grow the number of ETH we have, if you zoom out on like a 10-year timeline, ETH will be going up. I think we're all safe to say that. But yeah, it's not necessarily like, oh, we're going to unwind to dollars now. No, because the goal is always just to stack more ETH. So in that sense, it's just kind of like an OG ETH maxi idea where it's like, and not that we're maxi that other assets are bad. It's more maxi in the sense that like ETH is is ultrasound money. It is the best money. So why not denominate in the best money? And that's kind of our approach there. It's not necessary that we're all in ETH and we're looking to ever unwind those positions to dollars. It's more just that like if we could stack our ETH and our ETH number goes up, we just want to be one of the largest ETH whales there is.
I think 3AC would like to be friends with you guys right now. That's actually really cool. I spent a lot of time in the space, and I think when I hear maxi, the first thing that always comes to mind is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin maxis have had a good run, but there is a case to be made, and I think I'm inclined to agree with you guys that the ETH, looking to future cycles and to the future promise, post ETH 2.0, there's a lot that Ethereum will bring to the table, and it's extremely undervalued right now, versus what its future promises. So I think that's going to work out very well for you guys.
Yeah, and again, like it's not even obviously the dollar denomination is cool and it's a fun thing to look at, but if you really are in it for the long term, like that's kind of almost irrelevant in a sense for us. Like we just want to farm as much as we can, and then we know that numbers will go up, meaning treasury numbers will go up. And when I say maxi, I know that's like a huge like meme as to what people like think it means, and I just like kind of said it because it's the simplest way to explain it. But obviously, like we bought yAxis token from you guys. Like we're not ETH only. It's just in the sense that, like we weren't going to sell ETH we weren't going to buy the yAxis with ETH. We were going to borrow against it to buy. So it's not that other assets are bad. It's other assets that help us get more ETH are good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the formula for success in the first, or really for the entirety of Bitcoin's life, and now to have the number two currency rising, stacking ETH can't go wrong. So I am right there beside you. All right, so let's see. Next question. All right, so here's one that I think is interesting for you, Big Squid. What markers would your DAO, your project, look for to deploy more capital into a project like yAxis?
Yeah, it's obviously like hard to say specifically, but I guess generally speaking, one, if like the yield opportunities kept up, right? So like if we're earning 30% on the underlying plus the locked, and we get some windy effect, right? We're in for a month with nothing going bad, then I think we'd put some more. If you guys if we were interested in farming a new strategy and you guys built that strategy, we would definitely add more. But yeah, it's kind of just really like a safety thing. As in like, you never want to be too much of a project's TVL. Right. So like we would never ape in and be like 30%, 20% of of all of the ETH total value locked of a project. So like if a project is growing nicely and we can just kind of keep adding while everyone else keeps adding, I think that's kind of like a strong marker for us. But yeah, there's no real hard markers that we've decided on. It's kind of just like how we're feeling based on a lot of different things at the time.
And it makes sense to do it incrementally like that as well. If you become too large a portion of the ETH pool, for example, then your boost starts to drop down as well. So it starts to become counterproductive. So yeah, it definitely makes sense to kind of add slowly over time.
Yeah, and we also really, while obviously auto compounding 30% on the underlying ETH is amazing because that's kind of the main goal of the DAO is to stack ETH. We also do like farming the convex strategies ourselves as well, because we want to have Curve and convex in our DAO, so other DAOs will bribe us to vote for their pools, and it'll kind of become another additional partnership tool. So I think the combination of farming the pool yourself to hold the underlying tokens and using you guys to auto compound is kind of like the optimal strategy for us.
Yeah, that's funny you bring up bribe. So one of the things we're looking at with the gamified vaults that we have was that very thing, which was the idea of bribing other investors to vote for your vault and to boost your yield. And so that might be something fun. We should invite you to our. Right now, it's just a Google Doc, right? But we want to mature that a little bit. But we should invite you guys to that if you want to join in on that fun.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say everyone will know where we're going to be voting. All our ETH is in the AL ETH pool. But yeah, definitely a very interesting mechanic that's built on top of any gauge governance. And I know it's worked really well for Convex and Curve, obviously.
All right, and let's see the next question. Right, so this is a question just about. This is for Big Squid for treasury management. So obviously, treasury management is very important, and we're just curious. And you talked a little bit about this earlier. We're curious to know if there's anything else. So you guys obviously have you're invested in yAxis, and you have a lot of ETH. What other assets are you guys looking at holding? How are you diversifying? Are there any other types of projects that have caught your eye?
So yeah, again, like majority will always be in ETH. So we're starting to accumulate some ohm through these auctions. And that's kind of a derivative of holding ETH as well. So 33% of their treasury is ETH. So not only is it like a good partnership tool, but also it is still kind of a derivative of holding ETH. Obviously, in the short term, price doesn't necessarily always correlate, but kind of zooming out, having the underlying treasury be 33% still gives us exposure there. We have Convex Curve tokens from farming. What else do we have? I think that's really it. And in terms of diversification, so this is kind of like my least favorite meme in all of crypto. On a personal level, I hate diversifying. It makes no sense to me, especially in crypto. Why hold diversified assets that are all correlated rather than aping into something with conviction? So that's kind of my real mentality there, is like just find the names you like on a long term and hold them with conviction. And then there's no need for diversification, assuming that your conviction was correct. How we do where diversification is appropriate for us is on the protocol level, meaning like we would never put 50% of our ETH in one protocol because obviously if they get hacked, that would be horrible for us. So we like to think about diversification on an investment level, but not really an asset level.
Yeah, that's a good idea. What about NFTs? I mean, obviously you guys are very big on NFTs. Have you thought about branching out and investing in some of these other projects, like for example, buying a CryptoPunk and holding that in the treasury?
So I don't think we'd ever buy any NFTs. We have floated the idea out of bonding Bored Apes. So what that would mean would be we basically would be in getting Bored Apes into the treasury through the bonding mechanism, which would mean we're just giving Squid for the apes. But that's definitely not really a high priority for us because, even though Bored Apes is fairly liquid, it's still very illiquid. So it's not really a priority. And then, yeah, in terms of like the NFT strategy as a whole, not necessarily like we don't we don't really make investments. So we're an ETH farming fund really. So like I know like technically we invested in yAxis, but from our perspective, that's not we don't really think about that as like we invested in yAxis token. It's more like we invested in yAxis the product and the protocol. And by investing in the protocol, the yields themselves will pay back for that for the payment of yAxis. So we don't really like to think that we take positions in different coins or different assets, tokens, NFTs, whatever. It's more just how can we become the best farmers possible.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, you're investing in what you think are successful and or promising projects within the Ethereum ecosystem. Would that sound right?
Yeah, but not even projects in a sense. Like if some new DeFi protocol came to us and said like, we'll give you X% of our tokens if you do X, Y, and Z, we aren't necessarily interested in that. What we're interested in is we'll give you, if you put 500 ETH into our protocol, we'll just give you tokens as kind of like a thank you or marketing or a discount for using our products. So yeah, not really like we're not a VC fund at all. We're strictly a farming fund. And if people, because there's a ton of competition for our ETH, if people want to give us discounts by giving us governance tokens to use their ETH yielding products, that's would be ideal for us. But we're not really interested in taking formal VC style investments.
Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, so I think I'm coming up to the end of the list I have here. So
I guess to
yeah.
close out that last comment, to kind of bring that back to full circle to yAxis, it's like, if I just said all that, why did we invest in yAxis? So we invested in yAxis token because of the gauge vote. So by putting in 500 ETH and getting a max lock, the yield will be so high on our ETH that it's just kind of like a professional expert degen yield farming strategy from our perspective. So it isn't necessarily like we think yAxis token is going up or down or sideways. We don't really necessarily care about that. I mean, obviously we do. We want it to go up. We want the community to grow and things of that sort. But from the rationale of making the investment was like strictly yield based.
Yeah, and that's a smart move. I think at the end of the day, right, you want to optimize your return on investment, and especially if you're trying to stack ETH, I think that's a smart play. And okay, so I had one final question, and this is really I think we could start with Bobby, and then I can open it up to you as well, Big Squid. So given this new partnership, which again we're very happy to have you here, Big Squid. Bobby, what is your vision as the near term for the project, both on our end, but also with partners like SquidDAO? What do you see as our future focus?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot before about roadmaps and 2.0 and certain like development goals, but really it kind of all comes back to growing TVL. Like as a yield aggregator, that's like our life and death is going to be TVL, right? So we need to put all of our focus into that. Before launch, we were kind of very much focused on security, and that's probably the right thing to do. But now we need to really go after attracting in more and more TVL and That can be through a variety of ways. It could be through launching a new vault or a new strategy that others want to come in on, or deploying other networks like Avalanche and tap liquidity over there. But at the same time, it's just traditional business development, right? So it's just reaching out to other platforms like SquidDAO, like we've done there. And we think we've got a pretty good product now. I mean, we've got up to 35% APR on the ETH vault at the moment. So I think that's a fairly easy sell to make at the moment. But it just needs that general awareness of the product. So that's just takes time to do, essentially, putting together a pitch deck and going and making out proposals to people.
Well, thank you, Bobby. And Big Squid for our closing question and also any closing comments.
Yeah, from our perspective, we're really excited about the partnership because from our perspective, it's kind of like an acqui-hire of sorts, and not that you guys work for us at all or anything like that, but because we now control some of the gauge and some of governance, we don't have any strategists in our DAO, so we'll be able to say like, oh, right now you're farming the meme USD pool, like, have you looked at Frax? And then we can kind of shift. If we were interested in Frax, we could put up a vote and then shift a lot of our gauge power to Frax. So in that sense, we can kind of like nudge you guys to build vaults or just collaborate in a sense. Like, hey, what do you guys think about this vault? We like it. Okay, you guys like it too. Let's build it. So in that sense, it was kind of like yAxis was a great opportunity to get in early on to work with professional strategists and professional vault builders. And the gauge vote is kind of like a unique BD way to do that, where it's like now we're tied through this locking mechanism and there's really nothing that any side could do about it. We both have our say in the DAO and we both have our say in the gauge vote. And together we can kind of work together to kind of collectively grow the strategies that the gauge wants. And then, closing, definitely anyone listening, feel free to DM me to learn more about Squid, join our Discord. It's extremely active. A ton of big brains in there talking all the time about policy and marketing and e-strategies. But yeah, very excited about this partnership and kind of really cool to be able to kind of link the two DAOs and get our multi-sig to lock up yAxis, and hopefully others will see that and kind of follow in our footsteps of locking some of their treasury ETH or USDC or MIM or whatever they hold their treasury, and kind of outsource it to you guys to kind of auto compound and offload a little bit to the professional strategists.
Yeah, I think that's. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to pass it to you, Bobby. All you.
Okay. Yeah. I was just going to wrap out as well and say, this is what it's all about. Essentially, it's working with other protocols and using the game theory behind the gauge governance system to kind of build together, I guess, and see how it goes. It's going to be a really interesting kind of tug of war between different vaults or different sets of users. If you can kind of see SquidDAO as like a set of ETH users and possibly USD based in the future, but then we could similarly have a partner with a BTC based vault as well, and it'll be really interesting to see how it kind of works out in the future. So hopefully it's the first of many announcements for us, and we're just really thrilled to see that kind of validation come in from SquidDAO, and we look forward to working together.
Yeah, likewise.
So a big thank you to everyone on the call today. And I think that's going to wrap it up. And if you guys have any other questions, anything that you are curious about, of course, Big Squid and SquidDAO's information is in our Discord. I posted it up. Feel free to join and chat them up. But also you can post questions to you heard, and then we'll get back to you guys. But that'll wrap it up for this week. And have a good weekend, everyone.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, man. Thanks a lot for checking in. And definitely recommend everyone goes and checks out SquidDAO, both the Discord and the website. It's really interesting to look through too.
Thanks everyone for joining. We'll roll out with a little bit of lounge music and hope to see you all next week. A big thank you to Big Squid and SquidDAO. Have a good weekend.